Hello, in today's video I'm going to be covering how to make a cool spinning particle effect in IlluGen. This is roughly what we're going to be making. It's a pretty simple setup and should be significantly quicker than last video covering the grass cards. So hopefully you like it, hopefully you think it's cool, and of course you can adjust it to however you want it to look, but I'll show a basis for how I went and made this at least anyway. Awesome, so first making a new project and opening up, making sure you set it to auto or 3D as we're going to be working in a 3D space for today. And we'll be starting off utilizing a geopoints shape. So we can go pressing right mouse button, we can open up geo, then we can search up points shape, you can find here. And what this is going to do is scatter a bunch of points. By default, with how I have it here, it's around a disk. However, you can approach this in different ways of using like a cube or like a sphere and these things. For this tutorial, I am going to be using a disk. However, I leave it up to you guys to explore different emitter types and distribution methods there. I believe for now, I might leave everything mostly where it is. I might increase the scale a bit, however, but for the most part, everything can remain the default properties, really. Next, we're going to be going and adding a geo transform, or combine transform, sorry. So what this is doing is just displacing a bunch of points. These are where the effectively the spots will be, like where we're going to be distributing the object that we want to displace onto these points. Next, we're going to be using this geo combine transform, and most of this can retain its default setup. What we will do, however, is double click the little circle on the side here to expose rotation, and we can use an oscillator. I mean, you can try using like a cycle for a different setup or a constant. However, for this, we're going to be using an oscillator. And just clicking this little option here, we'll go and expose this. And from here, what we're going to do is play around with the oscillator. Awesome. Now, to make sure that you're able to see, because by default you're not going to be able to see anything happening with the oscillator, and that's because it's being set to constant, which is just a straight flat. It is what it is, effectively. So you can play around with different setups here. Just for this, quickly to show off some of these different options, I'm just going to decrease the attenuation here. Just to show off some of these different things. So we've got noise, and we're going to be utilizing noise for this example. However, we'll go through them just so you guys can see a cool example of some of these. So the UVs aren't going to be doing really anything. We've got a cool position along the z-axis. And of course, you know, increasing the attenuation and decreasing the frequency. I'm just doing the attenuation because it's a bit easier than adjusting every frequency. However, yeah, so that. Got angle around the z-axis, distance to point, which is a really cool thing. So for this one, I believe the further out it is, the more it's going to be moving, with smaller movements around the center. And of course, constant, which we started off with. But for this, I'm going to be using the noise. Let me double check if there's anything else. I believe that's all fine for that. Next, we're going to be going and clicking into the oscillator and adjusting some of these values. So for the oscillator, we can leave the rotations as is. If you want to reduce the maximum amount that they rotate, you can adjust that here. But for now, everything's fine. So we're just going to be slightly increasing the base. I will bump up the attenuation because we will want it to be maxed out, and we'll just adjust how everything looks here. For the base, what I want, I'm going to move the Y to be negative 100, and for the Z, we're going to do 32. Bring it up. It doesn't have to be exact. This is just some values that I was using for mine. Next, as you can probably tell, a lot is happening, and a lot of it is very, very quick. There's a lot of clipping as well. So what we're going to be doing is decreasing the frequency. I mean, that's a bit of a given. So decreasing the frequency is how quick it's going to be going through the oscillator. So as you can see, we're slowing it down by quite a lot. We're going to keep slowing it down. So I think this one's around, we can just go for around there. This one's very, very, very slow. The center one and this one is probably the highest. I think I have it around 160 in there. And so you can see a bit of it happening here. Next, we're going to be adjusting the amounts because all this clipping and stuff, from my understanding, is not great. I could be wrong about what it's actually doing. Maybe it does apply when it's clipping, but I generally get better results when it's not clipping. We decrease some of these amounts. That one to around 50, 52, 50, 56 is what my original value is. But as you can see here, slowing it down a little bit and clipping them out can give you some really cool results. We could try increasing the Y a little bit. To get some cool results, and decreasing the amount is also something that can be kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think this is really cool, what it's all doing. And adjusting these values to find what provides the best result for you is always pretty cool. One thing I'm going to be adjusting later, however, is you'll see some of these don't have that much movement and stuff, and are quite relatively static. I want to, at some point, and we'll get to that with some later stuff, is make sure that everything's always moving, because I think that just provides a consistent movement, can add a bit to it, I find. Next, we're going to be adding a scale, geo-combine scale. And so what geo-combine scale is, so where combine transform takes all of the points and can apply this oscillator to each of the points based off of some arbitrary gradient index source, which can, of course, like, I might as well show you guys actually while we're here. So if we want to go and look through some of these while I'm talking about what some of these do, these nodes, we can go through some of these different sources to see how they apply. I know the UVs don't do anything for this situation. The scale, so the transform does it by all the points, and it's not just a normal transform. It allows you to do a bit more with like adding noises and these sorts of things. The scale can be quite similar. So the scale can allow you to scale each of these points by different values. They have their own values, effectively. So that's a really cool thing that the scale can do, as opposed to just using what could be treated as like a normal scale, where it universally scales all of them. What we are going to be doing with this geo-combine scale is scaling around a point. And what that's going to allow us to do, which you will see here, distance to point. And then let me see what my values are. We are going to go and switch this around. So flip horizontally. That's going to mean the center will be larger, I believe. And then setting these, making sure we're actually visualizing it, because that would be probably why it's not helping. So you can do them larger on the outside. However, I think it looks so much better with it being larger in the center. But here you can see there's a lot of, like, because of how procedural and easy this is to set up. I mean, I've kind of shown you guys already like a bunch of different really cool results that we could get just by switching the gradient index source. And so this is super duper easy. as opposed to, like, this is something that I find pretty cool. I feel this is quite more approachable. There's a lot less that you can do compared to like GeoNodes and Blender or Houdini. However, setting up, you know, if this is something that you're trying to do, particularly this, I mean, you know what I mean? If I was doing this in Houdini, this would take significantly longer. Same with GeoNodes. So it is really cool to see how approachable this is. There are a couple, oopsies, other things that you can do, like noise, and so they're all randomized, or, you know, positions. I found I most liked the distance to center point, but you can get some really cool results just in general. And hey, you can even go and muck around with your own personal one, so having like the like having sort of like a ring around, and you can even go like set these to be like a bezier, and it sort of goes like that. That's some pretty cool stuff that you can get going for it. However, that's not entirely what I really want, so just going ramp down is the result that I'm after for this example. I mean, we're almost near the end, to be honest, with what we're going to be covering. We're going to next distribute some shapes on the points that we're doing, because at the moment these are just points. And so from here, I'm going to use the geo shapes. I'm not going to adjust it just yet, but this is what we're going to be distributing onto these points. And in order to do that, you need a geo copy to points. So we can go geo copy to points. So input the points there and the geometry there. Actually, now I think about it, one thing that would be kind of nice is if you input a points value into here, these are they say points instead of geometry, because it is kind of important to note that these are still points up until here, even though it says geometry, where usually you'd be having to plug the geometry into there. That could be something that would be nice to see. But yeah. Anyway, so as you can see here, we're now distributing this. By default will be little cards. And so obviously, at least maybe this is what you want, but not for this example. I'm not going to be doing that. But there's a lot of really cool results. So to simplify what it is going to be, it's just a spherized cube with a small radius. Set the radius to however big you want them to be. However, it is cool to look into what some of these may look like. Let me see. There's a lot that we can muck around with, and you can get some really cool stuff. So you could have like a cool, like almost like a paper blowing in the wind with these planes if you wanted to go something. I mean, I probably wouldn't have them spinning around. Or maybe this is a result that you're after. I think it's always really cool to go and explore every single thing that we can get with these, because you can really start coming up with some really awesome visual effects. So I think it's worth going. You got some cubes. It's like the Blender default cube. Very, 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 very cool. What we got going here. And you can make some really cool effects with this, as you can see. Of course, the spherized cube. I need to adjust this scale. Maybe we don't adjust the radius and we just adjust that scale instead to keep it consistent. In my example, I left the scale at 100. But this is very, very cool. That's what I'm going to be using. However, I just want to keep showing you guys some cool examples. Some cones. I'm sure you can think of some cool stuff with these. You can almost make some like darts or something with the cones. Cylinders. Spheres. Very similar to the spherized cubes. I just generally find you're going to get slightly nicer results with the spherized cube. Capsules. These are oddly not too tall. You can adjust the height there for some cool capsules. Discs, similar to the planes that we tried, and toruses. Probably not helping that I adjusted that. You can probably, is it the radius that you want to do? There you go. Got some like Blender donut exception. I think one day that'd be cool for me to make a little like blender donut effect, sort of like with this. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you can always adjust like the amount of subdivisions these have, although be warned, it is going to increase the performance cost. But that's something pretty cool that we got going there. However, let's go back to that spherized cube I was working with there. Nothing we need to do in particular for that. Everything should be fine. You can make any adjustments to scaling and stuff like that where you see fit. Next, we're going to be adding a geospace warp. Now, some of these I've covered in the last video that I did, so go check that out if you haven't. And with this, we're going to be utilizing a oscillator, and this is going back to that thing that I mentioned about adding constant rotation, so we're not having these too many lull periods. However, I do think the lull periods are nice, but you'll see where I'm approaching with these. Just scrolling through with what I want to do. I think I'm going to go the twist angle here. Once again, double clicking, and we're going to be adding another oscillator here. So we can just go add it here. This is only going to be using this one here. You can sort of see it going and twisting here. For this, we'll leave most of it pretty good by default. We'll leave the bases as is. As you can probably guess, we are going to reduce the frequency. That's a pretty common thing that I end up doing quite a lot. And sort of see it going and getting applied here. From here, we're going to be also decreasing the amount, which is all looking pretty good. Next, what we're going to be doing is just bring up that there, and that's going to fix it from mucking up some of the geometry that we're working with, as some of these were, by doing this, you can see some of them are no longer circles, so just bring that up. We'll fix that issue, but as you can sort of see, we're getting a little bit of like consistent movement going, honestly, and increasing the frequency. You can sort of see what we're going with that. So it's just to keep a little bit of just consistency with the movement. You can adjust this however you want, but by default, you see how everything is flat and normal and not moving. By doing this, you're getting some stuff twisting around like that. They're just going around and then spinning back. Just adding a bit of that movement to the points that aren't constantly moving. From here, we're going to be going into the final section of this tutorial. And that's going to be using a geo combine color. Be this one. There we go. And from here, we're going to be inputting the geometry. We might as well plug it into here. However, we will not be using the renderer, and the reason for that is because the renderer doesn't allow you to use vertex colors, or I haven't been able to get it to work with that, so it's fine anyway. And so for this combine color, we'll be setting it to vertex, replace, leaving all that default there. And from here, color gradient, RGB, we can change this to be like OK Lab maybe. And for this, what we're going to do is we're going to go and muck around with some of these. So to visualize the vertex, you're just going to click this here. Make sure you actually have it selected. Otherwise, it's not going to be visible. And as you're going to see, we're not seeing really anything with it. And so in order to visualize it, you're going to have to adjust once again, being away from constant. So you can sort of see we used normalized point index. Something that may help visualize it is turning off the grid. But as you see, there's quite a lot of dark stuff. So what we're going to do is we'll adjust it so it's more visible there. I'm not too sure how to adjust the background color, so Maybe if one of you guys know how to adjust the background color, that'd be kind of cool to know. However, maybe it's not in. There's noise, which I'm not too big of a fan of for here, albeit this can be quite helpful for some particular uses. There's UVs and these sorts of things, which is kind of is that. Position along axis Z is pretty cool. You've got angle around axis Z, which is what we're going to be utilizing, but I will cover that when we get to it. There's to the point, which is actually quite cool as well. Man, no, maybe this one's also quite cool actually. I don't know. It's hard to say which one's the coolest. They're all like, there's so many cool little things that you can make with them. And for this, what we're going to be doing is ramp up, down, smooth. And the issue that we're running into, of course, is only one side is getting the colors. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adjusting this to be maybe around the center. And if we double click, I wish you could copy these. Let me just go and add these points. So just double clicking them, grabbing the hex code, just placing them around the points. One thing that you could also do as well, actually, when I really think about it, is if you double click, oops, move the color picker, grab the color picker, and color pick that. As you can see here, we've got it all being applied there, and we can make some adjustments and stuff where we see fit. I believe that's all fine, and the final thing that we're going to be doing for this is once again exposing that, and we can phase it via the oscillator, and that's just going to, well, oscillate the colors and stuff and give it that cool little shift, which is quite cool. And you can adjust like the repetition and stuff where you see fit. I'm going to leave it off by default. Let's see, if we go distance to point, how is that looking? That's also so cool. We also, as I mentioned, going to lift this color a little bit so we can still see it when it's such a dark background. And honestly, from there, that's really the result there. Well, that's distance to point. This is originally what I was making, but you can sort of see here. Cool. Randomized effect. This can be used for like a background or like some honestly anything. I mean, I think it's just a cool effect in general, but maybe you guys have a use for something like this. I think what's beneficial to making these sorts of things is just it helps you sort of like explore what you can kind of do with all these nodes and some of these cool things. So hopefully this was helpful and entertaining. This was relatively short, still took longer than I was planning. 20 minutes is relatively long for a tutorial. However, I think I spent a bit of time covering, you know, a bunch of different options. So I might do that again, actually. Just once again, with this finalized result, what we can do is just going through some of these like transform options. So once again, we got like a normalized point index, which is quite cool. And noise. So under the transform, everything where it is. The position along the z-axis. This is quite cool, actually. See this little stuff in like at like festivals and stuff. What was this? Point along position with the angle. There's some cool stuff here. Distance to point. That's also real cool. Holy, I haven't seen this one. Hold on. This is so cool. You get some super cool results here. Maybe we cooked with this. This is really cool. There's some really cool results. I need to do some more exploring. I kind of just made it and I was like, okay, pretty heavy. There's some really cool stuff though, as you can see. And of course, constant's not really going to do anything. So it's just the rest of the stuff is really getting applied there. Regardless, all pretty damn flash. So I hope you like it. Hopefully this was helpful. And you learned something. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Hopefully I can make more tutorials each week. We've been quite busy with my stuff. I've been quite busy, so this was a very last minute tutorial. But I want to cover some Substance Designer focus stuff maybe next week if I can come across something that I think would be good to show and provide value to you guys' work. But we'll see. Thank you, have a good one, and we'll catch you guys next time. See you.